Okay, so far we have already covered, the definition of a research proposal. We have gone over the five most common parts of a research proposal. So, title and proponents, summary, body of the proposal, anticipated value of research or the significance of the study, and then references. So at this point, we're gonna switch gears, and I will be introducing you to topics relevant to um, research project management. So, and what are these sections? So, specifically for the remaining slides, I will talk about expertise in research management. I will talk about contributions to training and development. That a research proposal, that a research project can deliver, and then lastly, very briefly, we will touch on intellectual property. Okay, so research planning and management. So when you're writing up research proposals, most funding agencies will not only require for you to talk about the technical aspects of the work, the scientific and technology aspects of your proposal, but since you're proposing for the topic, or you're asking for support for the project, you're asking for funding for the project, it is very important that you also have a very good understanding, or you're quite skilled at breaking down the budget requirements of the project. So typically sa mga funding calls po, they would ask for you to come up with a breakdown of costs or expenses. So those expenditures can cover supplies and equipment. They can cover testing and service fees. Say if you're going to be working with analytical laboratories to do your characterization. So you have to be able to have an idea of like how much those costs would be. So again, monetary resources is one thing, but then time is also a very important resource that you have to keep in mind. So they will also ask for you to define a timeline for your project. So the timeline typically provides a breakdown of activities that are involved to originate or to start and finish a project. And then most of these funding agencies will require for you to come up with a schedule of milestones. So, if you have three main objectives, how much time would be allocated to achieve, say, like the first objective of the project. So you have to put that into details. Again, it's not only the monetary resources that you are trying to actually put into detail in the research proposal, but you are also making sure that your funding agency has a good understanding as to when these milestones or the results are to be delivered, and that will also give them a sense, is this really a practical plan? Can they really cover the work? Kaya ba nilang tapusin to in just like how long? Like 9 months? If the subject matter experts in your funding agency think otherwise, na hindi posibleng magawa nila to, more likely they will not give you the funding. But again, if your work scope, the budget you're requesting, and then the timeline that you're proposing are actually within practicality, more likely they will give you the support that you're asking for. Okay, so down to our last two slides. So these are additional sections that some funding agencies request proposals to include in the package. So the first of which is expertise and research management. So and this is more relevant to college level research, mainly because funding agencies typically would prefer to give the funding to groups working on research programs who have the necessary set of expertise to achieve the goal. They have to be able to identify or to emphasize that in the proposal, that we do have the right set of expertise to achieve the goal. It is also very important, like in this section, for you to establish who will be managing all the research activities and resources. So that's typically the research lead. So we also have to identify which specific parts of the project are to be conducted by certain members. So are there going to be students participating in this program? Are there going to be seasoned researchers? Are there going to be some collaborators? So all of those you actually specify in this section. Okay, and then typically after this is a discussion of the contribution of all these of this research project and all its activities to the development of certain personnel. So say for example at the high school level, those who would benefit much from the research activity will more likely be the students. So the question of will this research project and all its activities impart knowledge to the students in specific areas. So it's very important that you highlight them. Secondly, well, the activities or the experiments prove their problem solving skills. So you also have to be able to verbalize that in the proposal. And then the conduct of this research developed an inclination for them to later on pursue careers in this specific area of study. So again, it's not only about the technical deliverables, it's not only about budget and timeline, but mentorship. Mentorship is a very important aspect as well that in most cases are required to be highlighted whenever you are writing up research proposals. Okay. And then the last additional project management component that you guys have to consider when you are writing research proposal would be intellectual property. So during the course of ideation and when you're putting together, when you're writing up your research proposal, you will have covered a lot of relevant literature, and then along with understanding the consensus knowledge in that field, you will have identified certain gaps where intellectual property opportunities could arise. So if you see the need to say develop size controlled nanoparticles at 5 nanometers and you're quite sure that this could be the solution that's needed to come up with one of the most potent anti-cancer treatments, then such ideas and potential discoveries will comprise, they comprise an intellectual property. So even as early as in the ideation stage, you should be able to identify which amongst the milestones could be patented. Which within the milestones you can license like with the company to earn a profit. Hindi lang yung pag-iisip po ng invention, hindi lang po siya dapat after the fact or after the experiment. If you're actually quite confident with the quality of your idea, if you're confident with its originality, in as early as in the proposal, in the ideation and proposal stage, you should also be at least mindful that these are the opportunities that are going to come up, and that should also set the tone for how you're going to be highlighting the ideas. And in most funding research funding applications, they ask they typically have a clause as to who will be owning the intellectual property after the project has actually been done. So you have to be very mindful. If they fund your idea, will they own the patent? And would you be fine with it? So these are things that you have to be able to consider. So again, hindi lang po basta kayo lagay ng idea dyan. You have to anticipate like values of the values of the ideas that you are putting together and of the research work that you are proposing. Okay, so I guess that's mostly it for this talk. So I'm hoping that after this discussion, you will have already at least learned like what a research proposal is all about, what its essential elements are. I'm hoping that like some of the tips and best practices that I mentioned earlier did stick, and you can apply them to come up with more compelling and convincing research proposals. And and I'm also hoping that like our introduction to you to the concepts of project management, I'm hoping that your ideation and research planning exercise will become an enjoyable one. And like by being aware of all these aspects of research ideation, of research proposal and planning and management, this is not going to become like a fairly daunting and stressful activity. And I'm hoping that, by having a good understanding of all these elements, the entire process of research will become a fulfilling and a fun activity between you and your teachers, between between everyone involved. Okay, so a couple of very important takeaways that for you would be that whenever you're justifying something, an idea, an approach, a research method, it has to be based on verifiable information. And then secondly, a clearly defined research scope and limitation is very important in terms of showing how mature and skilled you are when it comes to the ideation process, and also at the same time, it gives your funding agency the confidence in giving you the right amount of resources and support. Okay, so having covered all these, so JP Onya will be talking about strategies on how you can present your ideas effectively in the form of a pitch, and then Marty Mateo, for the third part of the study, will give you an idea of funding agencies that are existing in the Philippines, through which you might be able to get funding. So yun, maraming salamat po. And towards the end, I will be entertaining some questions. Mabuhay po kayo.